Well, hey, friends, welcome to the Taking Flight podcast. This podcast is hosted by Mission Church in the northwest suburbs of Chicago, and we are so glad that you have joined us today. So today, I actually get to host our co-founding pastor, Tommy Bowman. He serves with us on the church movement team and has been so critical in helping us form missional communities, and he is right there in the trenches alongside us serving. I'm so grateful for his leadership and his voice and his humility, and I always learn something from him every single time I talk to him. So I am praying that you will do the same. Our question today is thinking through a new year and a new vision. And so you may be a church leader who is wondering, could our church be more missional in 2026? And where would we even start? If you have that question on your heart, then this episode is for you. Let's jump in today. All right, well, welcome to the Taking Flight podcast. We're so glad that you have joined us today. Today, we actually have Tommy with us. Tommy, thanks for joining us. So glad you're here. Normally, you're the one.
I know, I've never been in this chair.
Interviewing. Yeah. And so this is exciting. And I get to ask you some questions just about a church leader who may be thinking about a missional movement. And yet we're in the whirlwind of like the middle of a ministry year. It's Christmas time. There is a lot happening. And so as we think about what happens after January 1 and how someone might be thinking, okay, what comes next? That's what we want to talk about today. And so I'm excited to have that conversation with you. But in the past couple episodes, you've just asked people, so in light of the gospel story and Jesus's saving grace, what is your story? And so I thought we would just start there. We haven't heard your story yet. And so I'll just ask you, when did you come to the saving grace of Jesus?
Yeah, so I grew up in the church, great family that followed Jesus, and we were in church every weekend and Sunday night and Wednesday night. But I was 7 years old with my mother in the bottom bunk. I mean, I remember it distinctly. And I know I placed my faith in Jesus then. Mm-hmm. It was very real. But I don't know if you guys remember Awana clubs, but we had Awana that night. Yeah. I memorized all the verses and I just was like, what do these mean? Or she probably asked me, what do these mean to you? And it was John 3:16, obviously. And she just invited me to pray and make Jesus, back then as a kid, you frame it as ask Jesus into your heart, which isn't super theologically correct, but that's not why we're here. But just to follow Jesus. And so I did. And then I lived very kind of straight and narrow, did the right thing most of my life until I didn't when I was like 20 to 23. Mm-hmm. And long story short, I met my now wife and surprisingly, guys, she was very challenging. Like she challenged me, not challenging. She was not afraid to challenge me. She was like, I'm looking for a husband who loves Jesus. And so like first question she asked me in a bar was, what's your relationship with God? Mm-hmm. And at the time I didn't have one. And that was my moment where I was like, Jesus will come after me anyway, anyhow. And so I'm just going to stop running. I'm going to surrender. Mm. And so for 22 years now, I've been following Jesus. Not perfectly, but without stopping. So that's my story in a nutshell.
Right. I'm so grateful for Jess. Yeah. And she is challenging in the best way and the force that opposed you for your good.
Yeah.
So,
were you ever asked this question in this chair yet?
No.
Come on, let's just hear it.
No? Okay.
Yeah, do
All
it.
right. Similar to you, I was like 5 years old. I remember very distinctly this sermon on like heaven and hell, and I was terrified. And I was like, I want to go to heaven.
You were scared to Jesus.
Oh, I was so scared to Jesus, and I just very vividly remember surrendering to Jesus. In a living room by myself. I was just like, yes, Jesus, I want you to come into my heart. And I ran in and told my mom, and she celebrated, and I was baptized when I was 5, and then grew up in a Baptist school, like went to Liberty University, like an evangelical university, and did all the right things and really like truly loved Jesus. And I wanted to do the right thing. But I would say it was at 30 years old. I had 4 boys. So I'd already, been married for, I don't know, like 8 years.
Do you remember your 20s then at all?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it was like babies. It was just like
Yeah.
having babies. And but at 30 years old, I had struggled with an addiction for like a decade, and I was just so weary and tired. And it was like this point of surrender where it was like, I get it. Like, I get it. Like, I keep trying to do this on my own. And John 10:10, like the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy, but Jesus comes that we may have life and have it to the fullest. And I was like, oh, like what does life to the fullest even look like? I want that. I want that. And so I was 30 years old, 4 boys, and I was like, oh Lord, I need your help. I need your help, because I want to walk a path that I can tell my boys, like, I know it's hard.
Yeah.
You can walk it too.
Yeah,
like
that's
there's another way. And so it was just like a 180 turnaround, walked a new path, started spending time in the Word daily. I knew I was supposed to be reading my Bible, but it was always out of like obligation, a checkbox. And then I was just hungry. I was like so hungry for like more of what the Lord had for me. And that, I mean, I never went back. That was like the beginning of what I would say is true understanding of a life lived as a disciple of Jesus. And
Awesome.
it has been full. I tell Chris all the time, I want every last drop that the Lord, like all that fullness, that I just want to wring it all out. I want all of it. And I think that is what fuels me in ministry, like here, even at Mission, thinking about missional living, and like, as we think about a missional movement, and that is the fuel to my fire. I want everyone to experience that fullness. I want everybody to get like every last drop that Jesus has for them. And we just believe that he has that for every single one of us. And so that's the fuel to my fire.
Well, I'm glad I asked.
Yeah, it's thanks for asking. So as
awesome.
We think about our listeners and their desire to maybe start a missional church, where in the world would you tell them to start?
Yeah, and I think that the reason we're doing this at the timing is with the new year, such a great opportunity. I would just like stop everything and really assess mission, vision, values. And we talk about it a lot around here and now with other churches too, but a lot of churches, organizations, even, when you walk into them, you'll see like mission on the wall and it'll be a group of words. And then you'll see like vision on a wall and it'll be like the same words, but in a different order. And so it's like, they don't even know what it means to them. They feel like they're supposed to have it, or they have values, but don't know what they mean. And so I'm just like a huge proponent of doing the work to clarify your mission, vision, values. And we use those through the lens of mission, why we exist, vision, where are we going? And then values, ultimately, how are we going to get there? And so I just think we did that work in 2016 when we were 5 years old.
Okay.
We were called Mission Church, but we weren't missional. But we called it Mission to be missional. And so we just did the hard work over 2 days as a team. We stopped everything and we got clear on that. And so I could talk forever about that, and I won't, but I would just say, get your team together, get away and pray. Do it in your office, do it offsite. I don't really care, but like invite the Holy Spirit and get unified on your mission, vision, values. And then you can start talking about what you're going to do next. That's where I would start.
Right. And it's super helpful for us. It's in big giant letters on our wall. I mean, same as you're saying, like most churches you walk in and it's on the wall. And for us at the last church we were at, it was great big on the wall.
Yeah.
One thing that really, I didn't realize how helpful it was until we got here were our values.
Yeah.
So like how we get there. Would you unpack that? Like, I think we could make a lot of things fit into mission and vision. And I could say, hear me out. I'm going to make a case for why this thing that I love, that I'm passionate about, is actually going to help us see our mission and vision come true. How do values play into that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, so if you work with your team and you discover, like, we have a mission, right? And ours is helping people find and follow Christ. Yeah. And if you then went to, well, what should we do? Well, you could think of a million things that would help people find and follow Christ. And most of them good ideas that you could back up biblically. And so that's why it's so important to move to, okay, if we're driven by this mission, where is that taking us? So that's vision. Vision's a picture of the future. It's descriptive based on the why. And I don't remember when or how I stumbled upon this idea that, like, to really unlock the power of values, instead of asking what should we do or what should our strategies be, ask the question, how will we get there? There being vision. How will we get there? Well, if vision's where we're going, why not value the things that get you there?
Oh, I like that.
So it's just like, I was like, wait, what if we valued the things that we actually have to value? So another thing you could ask is, what must we do? Value those things. A lot of even churches, but organizations, they say, oh yeah, we value X. And it's like, okay, well, do you measure that? It's like, no. Well, do you ever talk about it? No. So it's just on the wall. Okay, so you really don't value it. And so I just think that's why it's so important to go why, where, and then how is the bridge. And those are your values. And so for us, as you know, they eliminate a ton of stuff, good stuff, great stuff, biblical stuff, things that would accomplish the mission, but not necessarily lead to a movement of Jesus, a missional movement. So yeah, that's been the power of our values, which are
gather, grow, and go.
Yeah. And so we value those things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the power of values for teams and churches.
It really is a guardrail. Yeah, like I said, early on in ministry, when I knew our mission and I knew our vision, I was like, hear me out. I have an idea. It's a great idea. And I actually presented this to my leaders. And I was like, I have this ministry idea. It's going to accomplish our mission and our vision. And I'm going to track metrics and it's going to engage more people. And then we're going to be able to do, and they actually gave me the green light to do this. And it was a really beautiful ministry for a season. Yeah. And then it became just another option on the large menu board of all the wonderful things we had to offer. And I just didn't have the wisdom or discernment to know oh, wow, if we just keep offering all of these things, this huge menu list, what really is very beautiful soon becomes just another thing, instead of saying, hey, our guardrails are the values, the three things we do are gather, grow, and go. And if it doesn't fit into there, then we don't do it. And
I mean, we talked in previous episodes about the 3 ships, and that's how you end up with the cruise ship. And I know you love Alpha. We have a lot of churches that come to us and they want to see what's happening in Alpha here, there. And I always say, and I think we all say this, well, the biggest thing is we don't really do anything else, and it's driven by our values. So you can do Alpha just like us, but it's going to compete against the 80 other things you do. So it's not going to look and feel and have the fruit that ours has, because that's really all we're doing around here. Yeah. And then the other thing I always like, if you're like, okay, yeah, we're going to do this, a good place or question to ask as a team is, what should we stop doing, start doing, continue doing? You could just say stop, start, continue. And some people do start, stop, continue, but I think you have to start with the stop.
Okay.
So you got to talk about what are we going to really, based on, again, mission, vision, values. Okay, now we have that, we're unified. All right, well then look at the menu of everything we do. What must we stop doing is the first place I would coach people to start, is to start with the stop. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Yeah.
How would a church leader, think of a team in a room, how do you coach them on where do we even begin with stop? Yeah. Because I love the thing that I do. I'm passionate about the thing that I do. And chances are we actually have staff that's hired to do certain things. What if that's one of the things that we're I think what we need to stop doing is actually your entire job.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Which happened here. Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah, actually in 2021, right before you were here. Well, 2021, that was 2 years before you got here. We got crazy. It was after COVID, and we coming back, and we started doing all this stuff.
Okay.
And we did, so to answer your question, this is what a church could do. We did this thing called it was called church activity audit or something. And I made these huge obnoxious flip charts. And I listed in the top row everything that we did, that I knew we did. And then the left side, I created a column that had our mission. So did it help people find and follow Christ? Our values, did it help people gather, grow, go, salvations, missional communities? And I just had our staff honestly answer those questions. And if it didn't, you put a red dot. If it did, put a green dot. Most often people couldn't answer the question. So in the end, we found ourselves doing a bunch of things in a season because things felt new and fresh, and we just wanted to get people back here after the horrible lockdown, shutdown. We were doing all this stuff that didn't lead people to experience our mission, vision, values. So to answer your question, if you feel like you've got a bunch of stuff. Well, you've just clarified your mission, vision, values. Put it on a flip chart. Write everything you did, and then write your mission, vision, values, and the things you care about, like salvations and baptisms. And did those things lead to those outcomes? If they did, keep doing them. Or if they lead to your vision. If they don't, actually experience the freedom in never doing them again. Imagine if you had all that time and money in your budget back because you didn't have to do those things.
Yeah.
It's actually quite freeing.
Okay.
And if you're really good at your job at doing them, your church will find another job for you to get you towards the vision. Right. And you'll be more fulfilled. Right. I think. Yeah. So.
Fun fact, Tommy loves flip charts.
I do.
And flip chart markers.
I do.
So fun. But
I have some under the table.
Great. Here we go. So what are practically the things that you here at Mission that you stopped doing in order to see the mission vision?
Yeah. I mean, the big thing is what maybe a couple episodes was about was small groups. So we stopped small groups. Yep.
And there's an entire episode on that. It's so helpful.
Yeah. So I don't have to rehash that. But the only thing I'll say is like that didn't lead to the mission, a movement of Jesus. So it was easy to actually stop doing. Eventually, like the next thing that felt almost as big was church streaming, like online church streaming. This was August of 21. We pulled the plug. And this was when like all the prominent voices in church were saying, this is the future. Right. You have to pivot to this. And we just decided not to because there was no fruit there, and it didn't lead to a movement of Jesus, and it costs a lot, and it took a lot of time and energy. So we stopped doing it. And we still don't do it. I'm pretty sure we have YouTube right afterwards. So yeah, I don't think we'll ever probably do that again. Some smaller things. I remember we did like, and I'm a dad with a daughter. We did a daddy-daughter dance. So we did a lot of things like that in that season that were like great, and people loved them, and it just didn't accomplish helping people find and follow Christ and a movement of Jesus, and had nothing to do with gather, grow, go. So stuff like that just gets put on the chopping block so that we can focus on what God's called us to do. So it's always good, nice things that people love and volunteers love leading and people love showing up for. And I don't know.
That's the thing is these are really wonderful things. So I was thinking about someone wiser than I am in ministry asked me in my last role, when is a family together during the night of the week? And I was like, what are you talking about? And they were like, well, walk me through, because I was groups and teams. So we, just lots and lots of different menu options. And they said, walk me through a week. Like
at church? Or
What do you offer? And I was like, oh yeah. Okay. So like Sunday night is for students and Monday night is for marriage. And Tuesday we alternate men's and women's ministry every other week so that we're not catching, like men and women at the same time. And, and then Wednesdays is recovery and Thursdays is the college ministry. And then on Fridays we have events like, family events like daddy-daughter dances and mother-son and mother-daughter and just like.
So basically, we only want you to see your family at church.
Like what? Yeah. So, and I was like so naive. I was just like, wait, what? I've never thought about what this actually means for a family, like practically, that we have offered all of these wonderful things and that our heart is to equip and support families and that you would have wonderful opportunities and certainly like you can opt out of them. But that really wasn't happening for people who are highly engaged in the church. They felt like, well, of course I should be there. And of course I should send my teenager to students. And of course my college student should be there on Thursday. And we should be in the marriage ministry on Monday. And now I have programmed every single night of your week with these wonderfully intentioned things that aren't actually leading to a lot of fruit.
And from a missional perspective, if the church's most precious asset is its people, and people's most precious asset is their time, then you can't take up all of the time of your most precious asset. They'll never be missional because you've created an environment and culture where you're taking up all of their time. And so this was said on a previous episode too. It's like people are the best asset in the church. God gave the church people to be unleashed and equipped and Yeah, one of the simplest things we can do is just not clog up their calendar so that they can be missional. So yeah,
Absolutely.
so we stopped doing pretty much everything except our to go to the start. Like the biggest thing we started though after we said we're going to stop this was our growth track. I mean, it's the middle value. Someone in this room leads it.
Yeah,
That's you.
It's an honor.
So I'd love to hear your thoughts on the growth track. Obviously, we started it before you were here, but it's the hinge. Like it's the hinge between the gather and the going. Tobias says all the time, we gather to grow, we grow to go.
Yep.
And without the growth track, it doesn't happen. And so we knew we wanted to gather people. That's a value of ours. We knew we wanted them to go. So we needed this hinge point in the middle that is so critical, that grows people up and equips them to go. So that's probably the most critical thing we started. The probably second most critical thing we did, if you think about the stopping of taking away small groups, which provide community and belonging, and then maybe other events that do that too, we said, no, we want you to volunteer on a team. Well, we've had to do the incredibly hard work of making sure, and it's been years, making sure when you volunteer on a team, you're experiencing everything a small group environment would. So you're praying together. Right. You know each other's names. You're doing life together because you volunteer on a team. And so that was written in a vision statement too, is that I think it's on our wall right now that thousands of people are volunteering and experiencing community and connection on teams. So that's something we had to start doing. We can't just ask you to volunteer and do this thing. It's like, no, use your gifts here, but you're going to actually experience community and connection. So it's probably the two biggest things that I think that we started in that season.
Yeah. And I mean, I've seen the fruit of both, like, the growth track coming in, it being, and there's a whole episode on this, so you can go back and watch that episode that Dan and I have a conversation all around the growth track. But our church, Mission Church, feels different. I don't know how to explain this, but when the growth track is running, there is something that shifts in the atmosphere. We had this last round over 1,100 adults and 130 students growing in their course. And then on top of that, we have a prayer team with more than 100 people who are faithfully praying for what God is doing. We had a team of over 220 volunteers on the growth track, hosts and helpers, who are all in, who are praying like, Lord, what do you want? What do you want this season to be? And it's a stretching season in a lot of ways. It demands a lot of us, but the load in is always really beautiful. We do some kind of series that really takes us back to the basics of like what we are doing. And this is for your growth. This is for your spiritual growth. No matter where you are on your journey, we have a spot for you. And in the growth track episode, we've talked about how that leadership structure is actually a second tier of spiritual development. It's really, really beautiful. But there's something that shifts in the atmosphere when we are so Holy Spirit dependent on like, Lord, there are so many people here and we know that you want to work in their lives for the next couple months. And so here you go. Here's our offering. Like, would you do it? And we're all in it together. And something shifts.
Yeah, and I agree. I'm struggling to find words to explain what you're explaining too. But if you contrast it or compare it to the church model where there's a lot of energy and there's always stuff going on, this is different. And I agree with you. The difference is Monday night for Planter and Tuesday for Partner and Wednesday for Alpha. It's all that same buzz and energy, and people are like laying it on the line and they're offering their time, and there's meals being served and there's growth happening, but it's all pointed. All 3 nights. Everyone is pointed at the same vision, and it just adds something different to all the energy, just the way that it focuses. You're not just enjoying yourself, or you're not just being blessed, but you're accomplishing the vision that God has called us to. And like we're in between growth tracks right now, and it feels like halftime, like we're kind of catching our breath. But like we can't wait. You could probably wait, but like I can't wait for it to start again in just a few short weeks. But I agree. It's a different kind of energy around here. And I think that's because people actively feel the church getting closer to our vision being realized. But you can't get there if you don't stop doing all that other stuff. So,
and then one thing I'll say about teams, as you're thinking about, okay, so if we're going to take away life groups, then our teams have to be beefier. The place that people experience community, it has to look different. I know that you guys have worked really hard. I've come in and just been the beneficiary of really beautiful, intentional huddle times. So huddle times are, like a half an hour. We're reading scripture together. I serve on the prayer team. There was a week where I went in and I was sitting and, we said, okay, how can we pray for one another before we go out and intercede for our church? And I'm sitting there, I just I'm tired. I was so tired. I think it was in the middle of growth track, just like physically, mentally tired. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to come in and get my stuff and then go serve. And it's quiet. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, I think I'm supposed to share. And so I just really vulnerably was like, I have this headache. It won't go away. I know that's really silly and simple, but like I'm physically and emotionally tired. And the way that the team came around me, just laid hands, prayed on me. I felt, and of course I cried. I can cry at any time. But to feel so seen. And then after that, to have teammates come up and say, hey, did your headache go away? Are you, how are you feeling now? But to encourage me, to lift me up. A team is where, here at Mission, our teams are where you are known and cared for and loved. And I love that. It's unique about our teams. We're not just showing up and serving and then leaving. I know that every team has that culture of care built in. And that's really unique here.
Yeah, and I would just follow up. If a church is like, well, what do we do with all that stuff that happens in a small group? There's no way it can happen on teams. I would just say, based on your story, it can, and it's not easy. Like, it has taken a lot of time, like years, and intentionality, reminding those who lead teams, like, hey, this is what we value here. Like, we want people. Remember, why though? Why do we want it to happen there and not in small groups? So that we can get people out on mission. So again, everything comes back to a movement of Jesus. Yeah, that's what some stuff we stopped doing, started doing.
And then what did you continue
doing? So the things that would be the same from 2016 when we shifted was we still gather as a church. It became a value. So we still do church, probably like every church listening does church. We have worship and we teach from the Bible. Prayer was pretty pervasive, and that has continued, like our emphasis on prayer and spirit dependency. We do kids and student ministries. And we have a pretty strong emphasis on like getting a guest connected onto a team. Why? Because of everything you just described on a team. Usually a guest comes to church, it's getting a group. This is, no, we're going to get them on a team. And again, that's been a science and an art that we've figured out. I think we actually do a great job of it. And I think there's still room to even get better. But we've put systems in place. And so I think when guests come, we're not just like, hey, I hope you come back, or I hope yes, we hope that. We hope that they find a home. But it's about getting them on a team, because then they're probably going to end up on the growth track. And if they end up on the growth track, they're probably going to start living missionally. And if enough people do that, you have a missional movement of Jesus.
Yeah.
So those are things we've continued to do.
Yeah, for the church leader listening, I know that it was really wait, hold on a second, rewind it. A guest walks through the door and you put them on a team. That's really backwards from a lot of it's usually like an assimilation course and give it some time and then they can explore and then maybe they will jump on a team. And so how
do you feel about this?
Well, yeah, even I was hesitant. Things were
What are we doing wrong?
No, I was hesitant at first. Like, I don't think you can do that. I don't think you should do that. And I could, make a case for like, hold on, anyway, to see, okay, I have an example. We had a gentleman who had just moved from Texas, he went to a CrossFit workout, and he didn't know it, but some guys at CrossFit invited him to Mission. What he had just encountered was a missional community out in the wild, right? So just a missional community that they do CrossFit, they do these workouts on Saturdays. And they're like, yeah, I mean, you're new here. Like, oh my gosh, you should totally come check out our church. We'd love to get to know you. So yeah, he comes and loves it. And then he was like, I take photos. I don't know if that's you could use that here. And I'm like, please. So we connected him to Alex, and she got him plugged in, and he loved it. And then he was actually at a planter table where we equip our planters. And we had it just happened, thank you, Holy Spirit, that this missional community from CrossFit was there sharing. And he was like, hold on, I know that guy. Like, that's the guy who invited me to church, right? And it's just like this full circle, like, hold on a second. It actually does work that somebody would get on a team and get plugged in right away and experience connection and community from a director who's saying like, I'm so glad you're here and you just moved from Texas. Like, what do you need? What do you know, like, I don't know. I've seen it work
Totally.
and it's very unusual.
Yeah. And of course, practically we have roles like, leading children or students or being up on stage leading worship. Like there's guardrails and there's checkpoints and there's interviews and onboarding. Yes. But anybody can, with the gift, can click a camera and take anybody can hold the door. People can move chairs. So I think if a church looked at 50% of their roles, you can allow anybody to do it and find that community and connection. And then I don't know if I quite have the words for this, so hopefully this doesn't backfire. But I think a lot of the hesitancy that churches have with like, oh, do we really have to make things so clear? Like, are we really leaving room for the Holy Spirit then if we put a vision on the wall and everything is so focused? And like, I totally get that. And I think what you just articulated, and this is where I'm struggling to find words for, but when you have the clarity of like, we know why we exist. We know where we're going, a movement of Jesus. We know we're going to get there through gather, grow, go. That still leaves plenty of room for the Holy Spirit to do all this like organic, messy, unique, spirit-filled, faith-filled, whatever you want to call it. That stuff still happens. My theory, though, is you actually notice it.
Yes.
Because you know where you're going. And I think a lot of times in churches, God's, doing all that stuff, but you don't see it because you don't actually know where you're going. So it's hard to identify it. So we see that stuff, like the Spirit moves and things go unplanned. And that's actually awesome. But because we're so focused on where we're going and calling people to, I think we actually spot those things more because of the clarity. And so
well said. I think
I got there eventually.
I think Mark Batterson has some words for that, bold and specific prayers. So as you put your vision on the wall, and we tell our planters to pray bold and specific prayers all the time. So in Mark Batterson's book, Circle Maker, he says to pray bold and specific prayers, because how else would you know that the Lord answered you if you have not boldly and specifically asked? It actually increases my faith when I write it down and I circle it and I'm like, oh, he answered. This was not a coincidence. 100% the Lord did it. And how bold and how specific to write it on a wall for 5 years and to say, eventually we're going to have 1,000. I mean, you all the way down the vision wall. It's so exciting. And now we're literally watching them be fulfilled. It's exciting. It's bold and specific prayers that only the Lord could have done. When you wrote those things 5 years ago, did you think that maybe, you're like, I have faith, like, right?
No, some of them are very faithful.
Some of them are so big. And you're like, Lord, what would that even look like? What would that even look like? And then to be standing here today, if we walked out there, most of the wall is like true.
I know, it's
and
crazy.
Then we can give all praise and glory to God for that. So I think spot on, bold and specific. Write it down so that it's not just your staff or it's not just those key volunteers, but it's your entire church seeing the faithfulness of God, that we boldly and specifically prayed for this. And now we get to give him all the honor and glory that he deserves. I love that.
No, that's great. And you're alluding to our 5-year vision, which would be like a pro tip I would give to teams. If you take our advice and if you clarify your mission, vision, values, you'll probably land on a vision that's just so broad that it's just hard to define and it's hard to inform what steps you should take, like ours, a movement of Jesus in the 10. Well, that could look like a lot of things. And so that's something that we did back in January of 2017. We did our first 5-year vision of 2022. And the one you're referring to is our second one. So this is our second iteration, and we're already beginning to think about what the May of 2020, no, is it 30?
It'd be 2028, right? 20, because this one ends in 2027.
So that's the one we're starting to think about like right now. So that would be a pro tip I would say, is like clarify the vision, distill it down to something closer, like a 5-year picture for your church. And then I'm a huge proponent of like finding a way to execute towards that, right? So like now we've put it on the wall. Well, it doesn't just happen. And myself and all staff just don't show up on a Monday and immediately think of that. Like you have to discipline yourself. So we talk about a lot through the language of whirlwind, wildly important. So when you show up on Monday, or maybe your church takes Mondays off or Tuesday, whatever, what smacks you in the face is whirlwind, like your inbox, meetings, urgent things, pastoral care, things you have to do, things that are important. And so we just try to quarantine back 5-10% of our staff's energy to focus on the wildly important. And so don't just put it on a wall. You're only getting halfway there. You now have to like come up with a plan to execute towards it. So every goal we set goes towards that 5-year vision. If we do enough of those 5-year visions and God does what we've seen him do enough 5 years in a row, like we'll see the full vision be realized. So
Yeah.
don't just slap it on a wall.
Right.
Work towards it.
Right. And the way that we work towards it, would you unpack that a little bit? Just how we set goals, what we use, like the WIG and what that looks like.
Yeah, we use a
for
tool.
our staff.
It's from a book called 4 Disciplines of Execution, also known as 4DX. And I say this whenever I talk about this. There's like 100 versions of that. They all do the same thing. Just pick one and stick with it. I think 4DX was like the 20th thing we tried. But we've now been doing it since January of 2017. And so just, you have a wildly important goal. It should be pointed at your vision. Like we do it for 90 days. So if our vision is a movement of Jesus in the 10 our lifetime, what's that look like? What's the most wildly important thing in the next 90 days for us to focus on? And then we just execute towards it and try to get as much of the team involved as possible. But yeah, I would, that's why the 3 things I always talk about, maybe I said at the front end, is like clarify vision, unify around vision, and then execute towards vision. If you do that enough, the Holy Spirit can actually like really steward that and do something with it, the unity. So yeah, that's what we use, 4DX.
Yeah, and it's been helpful just as as an incoming staff member, somebody who's newer to the team. So jumping in, sitting in a room, there's 5 wildly important goals, right?
Yeah.
So we're going after this vision, but we're breaking it down in these bite-sized pieces. And like you said, the whirlwind is taking up 85-90% of my time.
Yeah.
But we're going to reserve this 10%. And even if I'm not directly responsible for part of the WIG, I'm still in the room. I may still be required to do a piece of it. But like right now we're going after family ministries and it's exciting to sit in the room, to have different points of view, to say, well, what do you got? I mean, you have families. What do you think? And so we are accomplishing part of the vision together. It doesn't take a lot of time, but it has a huge impact. And it also unifies
in a normal
staff.
church staff. I would think someone who runs a growth track, the growth track director, if there's a strategic meeting about families, your voice might not be included in that. But because it's all pointed towards the vision that we're all going towards, well, now you can speak to families, not just as a mother and a wife, but actually as the growth track director. And because Gather, Grow, Go is something for every generation, including families. So yeah, I love that all voices are in just that one thing.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. So for the leader who is thinking about being more missional in 2026, and this is on their heart, and maybe they have this like holy discontent, they're like the Lord is stirring something up in them and they know they want to take a step they're like, okay, so now I have, hopefully they've gleaned some things from this episode about like a next step. What like final encouragement would you have for them? Or what would you want to say to them if they're considering this for the first time?
Yeah. I do want to hear your answer to this too,
okay,
but I'll go first and you can think. I think a lot of this stems from being brave enough to ask a trusted person that question that's like kind of just been at the back of your mind or heart. So it'd be a question like, going into this next year, like, are we really going to do it back again, just like this last year? Are we really going to not be missional for it? Like that thing that you've just been thinking quietly, but you're really scared to say out loud. I don't know. I just think someone else is probably thinking, feeling the same thing. So just like have enough faith to just ask a trusted person, team member, the lead pastor, the executive, like, just ask them in a gracious, loving way. Like, hey, what do you think about if we like shifted things in our church to be more missional, to do what Jesus said to do? So I would just say, like, if that's been like gnawing at you, just like find one trusted person and just ask it out loud and then see what happens. I bet someone will agree with you. So that'd be something like more at a heart level. Practically, we do this church movement experience. Sorry if I stole your answer.
No, that was,
March 9th and 10th. It'll be our second year doing it. So we'll put stuff in the show notes. We'd love to have you come. And then just something I'm thinking of now is we have churches like, if you're in the Chicago or Midwest area, we have churches that come through here a lot. Like it feels like every other week.
Yeah.
Just wanting to tour the space, not because of the space, but just to see our mission, vision, values played out, hear about the growth track, hear about missional communities. So drop us a line, as they say. And we'd love to just like tour you, feed you. Like we feed people too.
Yes.
Good food. We have good food in Chicago.
We do feed them good food.
So yeah, so just like say the question out loud to somebody, come to the church movement experience and come take a tour with us. And we'd love to hang out with you.
Yeah. I was going to say church movement experience for sure. It was so helpful for church leaders all across the country to have space to say, what if we just shifted something small to start? Yeah. And our heart, I believe that every church leader desires to see a movement of Jesus. Like no one is doing what we do without the desire to see like kingdom come here to their local context. And to have some handles, to also have a space to be able to explore what that looks like as a team.
We actually give teams time to do the stuff. Continue too.
That was so fun to watch churches do that. I mean, truly, like after, a couple days together, they're like, okay, let's be really honest about some of the things that, and we're not going to hurt each other's feelings, but like, let's write it down. They just left refreshed, encouraged, challenged. And so I was going to say church movement experience for sure. Yeah. One thing that I thought of just about this like missional model, our gathering, like you said, it's pretty standard. Like we do worship and we do a teaching and there's nothing really different about it except there's this one really beautiful piece that I think keeps mission in front of us every single weekend, and those are our baptisms, the way that we do baptism every single weekend. So anytime someone wants to be baptized, we have baptism during the third song of worship, and our worship leaders set that up really beautifully. What are we doing? What is this? How are we going to cheer for them? And so the gospel is literally shared like before that third song every single weekend that someone is getting baptized. And then we're hearing their transformation story, but it is not our staff and pastors baptizing the people. It is their friends and family who have helped them find and follow Christ. This last weekend, I was like, my heart could have exploded. I watched. Are
you gonna cry?
I might like legitimately thinking about. So our friend Alan, who has been a planter, here I go. I mean, I'm like
one of our first planters.
I could cry at any time. You have been warned, but Alan was one of our very first planters, and he has been praying so faithfully for his family. And to watch him baptize someone that he has prayed for so long, and then to see, oh man, I was in the balcony. To see that his Alpha Circle was just standing all around him. And then for our church to watch them, to like what is happening? It happens every single weekend. And so it just keeps missional living in front of people every single weekend. Like, who's that? Oh, that's an Alpha Circle. That's a missional community. That's somebody in their partner circle. That it's just every single weekend. And it also encourages and refreshes my spirit. I know that if I'm service hosting and there's a baptism, that I have to like dry my tears because it's a reminder every single.
How'd you like to lead worship during those moments?
Oh, I don't know how you do it. Yeah, it's a reminder.
That's what I do.
Every single weekend that a movement really is happening and that our people are like taking up that mantle and living out the Great Commission, and they're owning that, and that's so exciting. So small shifts like that, just even thinking through like, well, how do we do baptism?
That's really just good. Like, and I feel like that's one we kind of stumbled upon. I don't know if
it was a great one.
Because I think what was happening is because the people were going missionally. So now you would have a planter, a lead planter in a missional community. Someone would get saved and come to faith. Well, it just made sense for them to baptize them. Or then, hey, I'm this person's Alpha Circle host. They came to faith in Jesus. Shouldn't I baptize them? And so, yes, what's happening, what you're describing is, of course, someone's going, first and foremost, public with their faith to follow Jesus. That's the most important thing that you see.
Yep.
But what you're actually witnessing is the values working towards that end. So through the Gather lens, that's through their volunteer role. So now their ministry director or their coach that disciples them is baptizing them. Growth Track, it's their circle host or the person invited them. Or Go, missional community. So you're seeing the Gather, Grow, Go stuff play out, which you're right. It's very cool. It's amazing.
Yeah, there's
It's
nothing
a game
like it.
changer. So yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for being a guest
it's
on
fun.
today's episode, and hopefully this just encourages you as the church leader as you're thinking about what does it look like to be more missional in 2026. We hope you're encouraged. We hope you'll share this maybe even with your church team as you're thinking about what does 2026 look like, and that this would be an encouragement to you. But we're so grateful for you, and we will see you guys next month.